Well, good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the magnificent Barony Hall on this special day, a day of celebration for you, our graduates, and your families, friends, and supporters. We're delighted to be joined here today for this ceremony by people from across Scotland, the UK, and indeed across the world on what is one of the most important and indeed enjoyable days in the university calendar. In a short while, each of our graduates will, when their name is called out, be invited to come up onto the stage where I will cap them, thereby conferring them with their degree. This is an ancient, public and symbolic rite of passage, a proud, secular tradition stretching back to the Enlightenment when Strathclyde was founded. Upon being capped, our graduates will become graduates of our great university. Once the ceremony is finished, you're invited to join us for refreshments at a reception in our Learning and Teaching building just up at the top of the hill here. But before we begin, let me say to you, please savor this moment. And to the families, friends, and supporters gathered here, do not feel the need to restrain yourself when you're showing your appreciation for our graduates, short of coming up here on the platform. And do enjoy the ceremony, which I now declare formally open. Please welcome Dr. Rog Glass to present our honorary graduate, Denise Mina. Now, Rog and Denise will be followed by Professor Karen Boyle, who will present our students.
Hi, this is nice. This is a bit grander than my usual lectern. My Lord and Chancellor, I have the honour to present to you Denise Mina, who is one of the very finest writers alive and at work in Scotland today. Now, this degree we're here to bestow upon her has been some time in the works, and I say this not to shame anyone, but to celebrate us all. So please let me explain. Now, there's no such thing as a typical education, any more than there's a typical Glaswegian, a typical crime, or a typical writer. That said, few of our foremost creatives had the kind of childhood Denise Mina did. She moved just the 21 times. Born in Glasgow, then shifted to Paris, London, Bergen, Perth, amongst other places, as the family followed her dad, who was a draftsman in the Merchant Navy, from job to job. Now that's some resilience training for a young person. You learn by necessity to take people as you find them, not to make assumptions about who they might be, but to have compassion for their reasons, to try and see them as they might see themselves. You're always an outsider when you're always on the move. As she has said herself, you can't have enemies. That experience gives you a real broad love for humanity. It gives you, she has said, the privilege of being interested in difference from a young age, not afraid of it. Her dad would get a great new job, then he'd get in trouble, then they'd have to move again to a different country, where invariably the same thing would happen again. Most of us, no matter where we come from, have access to one strata of society, one, perhaps two or three communities at a stretch. Denise was consistently across borders, religions, class, interacting with wealth and poverty in equal measure, developing a keen interest in human nature, its possibilities and potential weaknesses as she went, not knowing how long she'd be in this place or the next one. One minute it was John Ogilvy in Ballanach, one of the most challenging schools in Glasgow. Then it was the English School of Paris with ambassadors' kids. Whiplash? Not a bit of it. She left school at 16 to get out and has been independent ever since. Jobs followed, plenty of those poorly paid. I know a few of my students in the room can relate. Until Denise got work as an auxiliary nurse for a geriatric and terminal care patients. Now, let's have no pity here. For a crime writer, for a writer of people, it's ideal preparation. There's a rich tradition of great artists seeing the extremities of the human condition before being driven to record it. Come on in then. What do you see? I see an inspiring story fit for a graduation day. At 21, Denise passed exams to get into the University of Glasgow to study law before starting a PhD here at Strathclyde, supervised by Professor Neil Hutton, while Professor Pete Robson led the crucial law and society class. Now, this meant a new socio-legal approach to legal education at Strathclyde, a place Denise has consistently said really matters to her. When she was a student, there were film nights and staff wrote on detective novels and representations of law in pop culture. And this brought together theory and practice, the study of law, not some distant, dusty, untouchable thing, but rather a part of our culture and our world. Both Professors Hutton and Robson, I'm delighted to say, are with us here today. Now, they might have expected, initially at least, to have waited a little less than 25 plus years to see Denise get her doctorate at Strathclyde, but please stay with us. There were good reasons, and this story, I promise you, has a happy ending. Denise's PhD thesis was titled The Ascription of Mental Illness to Female Offenders. The line, and it is a good one that's been repeated many a time since, is that Denise, quote, misused her grant to write her first novel. Now, like any good one-liner, there is a sliver of truth to that, but the reality was that Denise excelled at Strathclyde and had a great experience here, only dropping out of her PhD when her debut novel, Garnet Hill, secured publication. When she told her supervisor the news, she was congratulated, not banished. It's all the more satisfying then to be able to celebrate that decision from a woman whose dedication to research is true and whose contribution to Scottish letters in this field is unmatched. When Denise received an honorary degree from her other alma mater across the city, my own old PhD supervisor, Professor Willie Maley, himself a Strathclyder, and a man who knows a thing or two about endless curiosity and the value of a rich, unorthodox education, Willie said of Denise's work that it's a, quote, prime example of lifelong learning and of the ways in which literature at its best can enlighten as well as entertain. That was 17 years and many books ago. And in 2025, I couldn't agree with Willie more. That first novel, Garnet Hill, taken to a much larger audience than would have otherwise been possible, launched Denise's career, but it also shared the ideas in her PhD research. So let's spend a moment with that research then. What was it and how might it be seen now, a quarter of a century later? Well, the PhD focused on the differential ascription of mental illness to female and male offenders through the courts, so not in a medical environment. Women were being found mentally ill for behaviors men were not, and vice versa. Women who breached their gender role were being sent for mental health assessments. And at the time, Denise thought no one would likely read the thesis and she might then spend 40 years trying to disseminate the findings. She was proactive and restless, and she wanted to do more than that. She wanted to put the ideas into an emotive narrative, connecting with readers who might care. At the time, the idea that women who'd been mentally ill could have agency was truly radical. In crime fiction of the 90s, Denise noticed that survivors of sexual assault were nearly always presented as passive victims who needed rescued. From her experience in the feminist movement in Glasgow, these were the people doing the rescuing, and it wasn't a gendered thing either. There were lots of male victims of assault also perceived as passive victims, somehow incapable of more when the evidence of their capability was there for anyone willing to look for it. There are plenty of ways in which our world of today might be unfavorably compared to the world of the late 90s, but it's interesting, I think, how much the world has changed. In interviews on the publication of Garnet Hill, journalists often asked in interviews if Denise was a feminist, widely considered a dirty term by some at the time, and it was asked in an accusatory way. This was because her novel had a female protagonist. This was so unusual then as to seem to some like a provocation. 20 years later at the Gothenburg Book Fest, now one of the foremost crime writers from any country in her field, Denise was asked, "So, you have a female protagonist. Isn't that a bit of a cliche?" As she puts it, I've gone from being a circus act to being mainstream. That was a determined choice as well as a sustained effort. How are you doing having to stand there and listen to all of this in silence? You all right? Okay. That was a determined choice as well as a sustained effort. Along with writers like Val McDermid and Sarah Paretsky, Miner was trying to feminize the form, trying to tell difficult stories to people who didn't want to hear it then and now. To do that, she needed to be in the tabloids. She needed to engage. You have to participate in the debate, she has said, to influence the debate. To be great is to be misunderstood by millions, so goes the famous quote. Well, that was the aim. Few Scottish writers have a genuinely multi-genre, international, significant publication record as well as a significant audience. Denise has all of this and more. And somehow, despite all that success, she's not become insufferable. She's still the same grounded, fun, outgoing, and fearless human being, and that's some going. Now, this oration isn't an exercise in listing all Denise has done. Across documentary, theatre, the graphic novel, TV presenting, short film, so many awards and a slew of nominations for her various works. We'd be here all day. Now, just a list of my favourite books of hers is too long for this context. Even a list of her work in comics, from Hellblazer to, say, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, cannot be meaningfully represented here. That's fine, I'm not trying. I've chosen instead to focus on that key early PhD work, as you're all students, as Denise once was, in this place, and because great things are possible with bravery and determination and fearless focus. What's important on a day like today, I think, is to point to the spirit and concerns of the work our honoured guest has produced, and that's consistent across so much of her writing. Now, those that bless you, those that know Denise's writing, from the Garnet Hill trilogy through the Paddy Meehan and Alex Morrow novel series, the Anna and Finn novels, Conviction and Confidence, onto more recent works, my own favourites including the recent novella Three Fires, the novel The Second Murderer, or the genre-defying novel of the 50s, The Long Drop. You can't help but notice what these incredibly different works all have in common. Not just a furious intelligence at work, but also a determination to communicate unseen worlds, unjust and lost stories, hidden pain, with a compassion and curiosity that can only come from accepting human beings as we find them, then seeing what might be done in crisis. Denise has said, discomfort is your problem. Do you want to be comfortable or effective? Her work is never comfortable. Her work is always effective. It is relentlessly concerned with truth and how we might value it, which is it not, what the law is for. These honorary degrees give us a chance to celebrate our finest, embarrassing good people as they stand there and have to listen back to a reductive summary of their entire working lives. But they're also an opportunity for learning, so say I. Right? We study Denise's novels on the MLit in creative writing that I've been the convener of these last 5 years, and on the undergraduate courses too. And it's exciting to be able to tell students that here is a writer who came from Glasgow and still lives here, working her way up from nothing to now routinely being referred to as crime writing royalty. I think perhaps Ian Rankin coined that one, though I've heard others say it too. With nothing but hard graft, a keen eye, and no small amount of real, warm charm. Our connection with Denise's work is real and long-lasting. Recently, she was commissioned by the Strathclyde Creative Writing and by Strathclyde English and Creative Writing and the Alistair Gray Archive to produce new fiction in response to Gray's life and work for Grey Day 2024. She's previously given readings to students and given generously of her time, donating her fee to the Strathclyde Review, our own student publication. And I hope that after today we'll be able to do much more together. For instance, on our Reading and Writing Historical Fiction module this year, we'll be studying Denise's novella of the Court of Mary, Queen of Scots, Rizzio. On my Shape of Stories module, we'll be studying her brand new novel, The Good Liar, her latest exploration of truth-telling, this time among blood spatter experts. On our module concerned with how writers break into publishing, The Writing Life, Denise will be visiting to discuss her work with students and talk about how she got started. Now, all of these are ways to be inspired. The way we see what's possible here on Earth is to look at others who have gone before us and see what they managed against the odds. That applies in all subjects, not just for writers. But it really does matter to writers to be able to look around at others from their own city, their own background, their own field, making the impossible seem possible. And I know this is true because it happened to me once upon a time when I was a student here too. It is with great pleasure, therefore, my Lord and Chancellor, that with the authority of the Senate, I ask you to confer upon Denise Miner the degree of Doctor of Letters, honoris causa. Long may she reign.
Thank you so much. I don't think I've sweated that much in 5 minutes. For a Glaswegian to stand while they're being complimented is incredibly uncomfortable. But as Rog says, I was a student here. I came here from Glasgow, where law was taught in a very black letter way. And I came here to the auspices of Pete Robson and Neil Hutton, who are very old and may well be asleep now. But what I discovered was a really intellectually stimulating university where we were thinking about power. We were thinking about what law did. We were actually thinking about things in a really critical, thoughtful way. And we were considering the power that we were going to have as lawyers. That, to me, was incredible, because those were the things that haunted me when I was studying at Glasgow. We didn't really discuss them there. Glasgow's rubbish. I think we all know that. But I'm going to speak very, very quickly, because I know it's quite nerve-wracking coming up to take your degree, and this is a moment of triumph and celebration of what an incredible thing it is to get a degree. I always think most people start their first year, they're very excited. By the end of third year, they're thinking about leaving. By the end of fourth year, they're just glad it's over. It's an incredible thing to do, and I cannot congratulate you enough. But I would like to speak in praise of failure. As Rog told you, my career here ended in, well, it wasn't really failure because I got published, but embrace failure in your future, I would say, because out of failure and out of accepting failure as just part of life comes the ability to be grateful. I am so grateful for the life and career that I've had. And knowing that is acknowledging that you're part of a collective of people who are striving for things. I'm part of a writing collective of writers in Scotland who all work together and compete with each other, sometimes hate each other. I got a prize and I was on stage, and one of the people who was presenting, it was a very well-known writer, and said, you know, the lovely thing about crime writing is we're all friends. And the camera cut to someone in the audience who was another very well-known writer, and he was mouthing to the person next to him, I hate him. But we are part of a collective, and this is a collective endeavour, and we're encouraged, I think, in this culture to think of ourselves as individuals, but we are a collective. We're always a collective. We're always standing on the shoulders of giants. You know, we're always being encouraged and supported and egged on by other people, and had I not come to Strathclyde University, that would simply not have been possible. And I cannot thank the university enough for this fantastic honour. My cousin passed away last year. He was at this university. And it feels really special to be standing here accepting this today. And I would say also, work out what measure of success you want, because money isn't there's only so many rooms you can stand in at one time. For me, standing here today is a measure of my success, because I've stayed friends with people at Strathclyde. It would be quite hard not to be honest with you, because Glasgow's quite small. But you know, I know people who have had careers in writing that have been stellar and they still feel like failures. I can hardly sleep for punching the air. I can't believe how lucky I am. And with that, I'll say thank you very much, and well done to everybody who's graduating today. Thank you.
My Lord and Chancellor, in the name of the University and by the authority of Senate, I present to you these students. For the degree of Doctor of Philosophy for Research in English, Rebecca May Jones. Marion Cameron Marlowe. For research in history, Nicole McKerra Cumming. Ian William McClellan. Nicole Elizabeth Williams. For research in journalism, media and communication, Enis Al-Kedem. For the degree of Master of Letters in Media and Communication, Grace Abidemi Adesokan. Okinamaro Loveth Chukwudi. For the degree of Bachelor of Arts in Economics and Journalism, Media and Communication, Cree Dunn. In English, Zoe Amy Dallas. Olivia Rose Houlihan. Connie Beth Milligan. Holly Skye Skalich. In English and Creative Writing, Emma Rayburn Anderson. Tommy Brown. Emma Elizabeth Campbell. Jodie Lee Campbell. Kate Elizabeth Connor. Emma Drain. Sophie Jane Duffy. Jamie Kellen Gemmell. Micah Jack Hunter. Emma Elizabeth Julian. Sophie Kay. Ross John Maneely. Rachel Ellen McNair. Mia Lauren Muir. Emily Jennifer Jessica Nelson. William David Stewart. Emily Ann Verrill Sutherland. In English and Creative Writing and History, Rowan Jean Hamilton. In English and Creative Writing and Journalism, Media and Communication, Evan Baxter Carr. Kieran James Docherty. Saskia Frances Haining. Erin Howitson. Kulsum Shabir. Evie Shields. In English and Creative Writing and Journalism, Media and Communication with International Study, Lucy Ann Sullivan. In English and Creative Writing and Politics and International Relations, Rhiannon McGovern. Albert Luke Oldfield. In English and Creative Writing and Social Policy, Brogan Tracy. In English and Creative Writing and Spanish with International Study, Victoria Misemi Iluku. In English and Creative Writing with Education with International Study, Mirren Jane Murray. In English and Creative Writing with French with International Study, Rona Finlay. In English and Creative Writing with International Study, Elaine Francis. In English and Creative Writing with Journalism, Media and Communication, Aaron Taylor McDougall. In English and Creative Writing with Psychology, Aaron Dominic Kansani. In English and History, Demi Deary. In English and Journalism, Media and Communication, Nicole Lanahan. Charlotte Ray. Kayla Wright. In English and Politics and International Relations, Jenna Ward. In English and Psychology, Joe Ross Fitzpatrick. Kanjika Kanoi. In English with International Study, Lucy Johnson. Taylor Monroe. In English with Politics and International Relations, Paige Diana Goodwin. Sophie Holly McMullen. In French and Politics and International Relations with International Study, Akwasi Asumadu Botang. In French and Psychology with International Study, Phoebe Meredith Griffith. In French and Spanish with International Study, Madeline Eve Andrews. Bethany Connaughton. Lucy Ann Findlay. Sophie Dobson Fisher. Freya Jane Hannay. Jenna Kathleen Holden. Nicholas McConaughey. Sarah Weir. In history, Jack Philip Allen. Neve Anderson. Neve Elizabeth McCluskey Bloomer. Amber Mia Cairns. Jessica Cairns. Lewis Ferguson. Chloe Michelle Francis. Casey Gillespie. Andrew Grant. Breed Greer. Scarlett Blue Hall. Rachel Hannah Johnston. Jennifer Elizabeth Lang. Sophie Laird. Rhiannon Lawson. Shania Erskine Maritz. Erin Christina McMahon Matheson. Megan MacDonald. Abby Rose McGee. Molly McLeod. Lucy Sarah Menzies. Susanna Eve Osborne. Neve Patterson. Amy Martha Quinn. Julia Quinn. Sophie Rankin. Leon Alexander Reed. Daniel Robinson. Abigail Stewart. Christopher Stone. Kate Watson. Alfie David Wilkin. Martin Witherow. In History and Education, Daniel Gerard Lamb. Kira Rebecca McEwen. Rebecca Elizabeth Roberta Yates. In History and English, Louise Elliott. Ellie Ann Neal. In History and French with International Study, Ellie Yates. In History and Human Resource Management, Amelia Rose Howard. In History and Journalism, Media and Communication, Eve Louise Barrett. Lindsay Green. Max Thomas Higgins MacDonald. Michael McDermott. In History and Law, Helena Amy Constantine. In History and Politics and International Relations, Josh Clanahan. Robin Leddy. Rebecca Leadham. Andrew Lewis MacDonald. Katie McEwen. Leah McPike. Katie Heather Mitchell. Lucy Helen Reid. Abby Katrina Rochford. Jardin Sharp. Charlie Emily Margaret Stewart. Christopher Harry Sugden. Elva Tang. In History and Social Policy, Mark Ewart. Darcy May Monroe. Aidan O'Hara. Katarzyna Anna Zogda. In History with Education, Drew Finlay Booth. Caitlin Higgins. Brogan Johnson Reid. In History with Education with International Study, Tara Mary Ledouce. In History with English, Paris Kelly. In History with English and Creative Writing, Bethany Rose Scott. In History with International Study, Andrew Robert James Carmichael. Millicent Sutherland. In History with Journalism, Media and Communication, Erin McPherson. In History with Law, Nadine Lowe. Colin Young. In History with Politics and International Relations, Fraser John Crone. Amy White. In History with Social Policy, Leah Clements. Jack MacLeod. Eve Teresa Riley. Erin Marie Sherry. In Humanities and Social Sciences, Zara Al-Khatib. Daniel Yasser Bowles. David Ross. Sorry. David Ross. In Journalism, Media and Communication and Education, Lucy Catherine Malach. In Journalism, Media and Communication and Education with International Study, Honey Regev. In Journalism, Media and Communication and English, Abby Graham. Holly Haldane. Ellie MacDonald. Shannon Stevenson. Casey Thompson. In Journalism, Media and Communication and English and Creative Writing, James Mulholland Maloney. In Journalism, Media and Communication and French with International Study, Zainab Saad Hassan. In Journalism, Media and Communication and History, Jodie Leila Kidd. Sophie Smith. In Journalism, Media and Communication and Law, Jessica Ann Moyer. In Journalism, Media and Communication and Politics and International Relations, Callum John Grant. Hannah Louise Isdale. Scott Macaulay. Erin Mooney. Patrick John Michael Mullen. Janvi Vipin. In Journalism, Media and Communication and Politics and International Relations with International Study, Sophie Christina Adams. Chloe Jane Ballantyne. In Journalism, Media and Communication and Psychology, Sam Condé. In Journalism, Media and Communication and Social Policy, Benjamin Jacob Clark. Eve McTiernan. Lucille Rose Mills. Tamsin Smith. In Journalism, Media and Communication and Spanish with International Study, Archie Willis. In Marketing and Spanish with International Study, Amy Cunningham. In Spanish and French with International Study, Kieran James Byrne. Abigail Marion Catherine Cameron. Saskia Harris. Susanna Lucy Howard. Holly McLachlan Mackay. Molly McDade. Molly Grace Thompson. And in Spanish and Marketing with International Study, Molly O'Grady.
Well, let me extend a warm welcome to you all once again on this special day, which marks the culmination of many months of hard work and dedication for our new graduates. First and foremost, I'd like you to join me in offering our heartfelt congratulations to our graduates of 2025 for their collective achievements and success with a round of applause. Well done. Gosh, thank you. All of our graduates here today have shown great commitment, resilience, adaptability, and determination to arrive at this day. For those of you graduating in the presence of your loved ones, this is a moment of great pride. Your family, friends, and supporters have undoubtedly played a crucial role in your journey. So let's take a moment to acknowledge and applaud them for the support they've given you. Likewise, our dedicated staff have worked tirelessly to provide you with exceptional education and student experience, and your success reflects their commitment. Graduates, let's take a moment to show our gratitude and appreciation to them. Once this ceremony has concluded, we'll leave the hall in an academic procession, signifying that you are now full members of the Strathclyde academic community, which numbers now more than 220,000 worldwide. As esteemed members of this community, you join a long line of alumni who've gone on to excel in their chosen fields. And this includes not only notable names such as physician, missionary and explorer David Livingstone, television pioneer John Logie Baird, Lady Ellie Shangiolini, former Lord Advocate of Scotland, former leader of the Scottish Conservative Party, Baroness Annabel Goldie, and entrepreneur, philanthropist and long-time supporter of Strathclyde, Sir Tom Hunter. But also individuals such as computer science graduates John Giandria, who now is Senior Vice President of Machine Learning and AI Strategy at Apple, and Dr. Pauline Burt, Head of Data Science, Siri Assistant and Diction, also at Apple. Teaching graduate Andy Roxburgh, OBE, former Scotland men's football team manager and now Technical Director of the Asian Football Confederation. Economics and Social History graduate and a very generous donor to Strathclyde, Dr. Leslie Stretch, former President and CEO of software services company Medallia. Economics and Finance graduate Anne Dovegen, Senior Vice President at Norwegian export finance company Exfin. And Biochemistry and Bioengineering graduate Dr. Mark Travers, who's Global Head of Monitoring Excellence at the pharmaceutical firm Merck & Co. Strathclyde was founded in 1796 during the Scottish Enlightenment through the bequest of Professor John Anderson, who believed in knowledge for all for the greater good. He wished to establish a place of useful learning. Now, we've remained faithful to this founding principle, which continues to guide us today as we strive to make a positive impact on society and the world. We are a research-intensive university committed to creating new knowledge and understanding to tackle the challenges of our time. Our scientists and researchers are leading the development of innovative technologies that will facilitate the transition from fossil fuels to clean, sustainable energy sources like wind, solar, hydrogen, that will power our future world and tackle climate change. And we're developing new drugs, using new digital manufacturing processes, which will provide cheaper, more effective treatments in the fight against cancer, kidney diseases, and inflammatory diseases, while also helping our health service evolve to face the challenges of health and social care in the changing demographics of the 21st century. And through our focus on entrepreneurial education, Strathclyde Inspire, we're helping students and staff to create new businesses with sustainability in mind, which are reaching way beyond the university, helping to create jobs and supporting economic growth. And we're leading the revitalisation of this part of the city through the Glasgow City Innovation District, which is bringing companies, both large and small, here to work together across key research clusters. Things like high-tech, fintech, 5G, industrial informatics, space and quantum, much of which is based within our Technology and Innovation Centre. And in the near future, we're going to be creating another innovation centre named in honour of one of our most successful alumni, businessman Dr. Charles Hwang, who donated £50 million to Strathclyde an extremely generous gift and our largest ever, and it was given in recognition of the role that this university had in his personal success. £30 million of this gift will be used to transform the former Students' Union building on John Street into a new key element of the university's technology and innovation zone, allowing more businesses to co-locate with the university and improve productivity, develop world-class talent, research, technology, and accelerate inclusive economic growth. And we're also a major player in a second innovation district, the Advanced Manufacturing Innovation District Scotland, out near Glasgow Airport, where we operate the National Manufacturing Institute Scotland facility, which is helping to grow Scotland's manufacturing capabilities as part of the fourth industrial revolution called Industry 4.0, which will see digitalisation, automation and artificial intelligence transform the sector and provide huge economic and employment opportunities. And we're partners too in the Medicines Manufacturing Innovation Centre operated by CPI, which sits across the road from the NMIS, which I mentioned earlier, and the Digital Process Manufacturing Centre at Irvine in North Ayrshire. And that's offering training opportunities, cutting-edge digital demonstrators, and access to expert support on research and development. Now, Strathclyde also works to inform public policy on national economic strategy, education, productivity, and workplace strategies through our various research institutes. We're training teachers, lawyers, journalists, and civil servants who contribute so much to our society. And through our Centre for Sustainable Development, our globally minded staff and students are working, co-creating solutions with our global partners across academia, civil society, public and private sectors, and to secure real-world impact and tackle the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. In pursuing this vision, we understand the value of working successfully in partnership with business, government, and the third sector to make a difference. And we extend our global reach through our academic partnerships with the likes of Stanford, NYU, MIT, Caltech, Tsinghua, Nanyang Technological University, and the National University of Singapore. And as a university, we're continually working to enhance our student experience, investing in our campus and student experience, as evidenced by our new Strathclyde sport and learning and teaching buildings, and investing in health and well-being services, always putting our students at the heart of everything we do. Our progress and efforts in all of these areas have been greatly recognised in recent years with a host of awards. Now just listen to this list. In 2019, we became the only university to win the Times Higher Education UK University of the Year twice, having first won it in 2012. We've also been named Business School of the Year, Workplace of the Year, and Research Project of the Year in recent years. And Strathclyde was named Scottish University of the Year 2024 and runner-up as the UK University of the Year in the inaugural Daily Mail University League tables. Alistair McCall, who compiled the rankings and who previously was responsible for the Sunday Times Good University Guide and League Table, described Strathclyde thus: the epitome of a progressive 21st century university seeking to shape and change society for the better through the pursuit of educational excellence and social change, and still a place of useful learning, just as it set out to be more than 200 years ago. Furthermore, last year we were named European Entrepreneurial University of the Year at the EEE Awards, and we collected our 4th Queen's Anniversary Prize, our 3rd consecutive one of those, in recognition of research, innovation, and entrepreneurialism in photonics, the science of light. These awards reflect the quality and breadth of activities in our university across all faculties. And some of the highlights from this particular faculty: in social work and social policy, A new research programme is exploring the impact of Scotland's justice system on public health, with extensive input from the most affected communities. Strathclyde is leading the £1 million study aimed at improving the health of disadvantaged communities, which will examine how health, crime, criminalisation and victimisation intersect. And in humanities, the daughter of a former Strathclyde vice principal left £1 million to the university in her will. This generous bequest by Charlotte Lyth, who was former Dean of Arts and Social Sciences at the University of Dundee and the daughter of Professor Edgar Lyth, will support the internal appointment of 2 professorial chairs, the Charlotte Lyth Chair in Humanities and the Edgar Lyth Chair in History, as well as 3 new Chancellor Fellows Lyth Lectureships in the Department of Humanities. And these examples are just a small sample of the wide-ranging activity and successes from our university in the last year. And it's upon these past achievements we're going to build the future and achieve the goals and ambitions we've set ourselves for the next 5 years or so in our strategic plan, Strathclyde 2030. Today is a day to look forward to the beginning of a new chapter in your lives, where you'll take the knowledge and skills you've acquired during your time here to pursue and realise your aspirations. And as you forge your new careers, the university's value of being people-oriented, innovative, collaborative, ambitious and bold will stand you in good stead. I don't need to tell you, the world faces many challenges and uncertainties, and these challenges, such as climate change, demand solutions. As graduates of Strathclyde and the future leaders of our society, you have a responsibility to use your talents and your education to make a positive impact on the world. So whether you go in to pursue careers in business, science, engineering, politics, or any other field, remember that you have the power to effect change, to inspire others, and to shape the course of history. But power comes with responsibility. And I urge you never to lose sight of the values that have guided you thus far. Integrity, humility, empathy. These are the qualities that will set you apart as you navigate the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. And as you step out into the world, you carry with you the knowledge and skills you've acquired during your time at this esteemed institution. But more than that, you carry the spirit of Strathclyde, a spirit of innovation, collaboration and excellence. Strathclyde is also an institution where freedom of thought is encouraged and valued, an institution exemplified by tolerance and inclusivity. We hope you'll continue to demonstrate Strathclyde's socially progressive values and ethos of tolerance, pluralism, and a desire to make a positive difference. I'm confident you will do this, because you go out into this world equipped with the most valuable asset, knowledge. The Strathclyde degree that you now hold in your hands is your passport to success as you rise to meet the challenges ahead. And as you embark on the new chapter of your lives, I encourage you to continue learning, to embrace new challenges. Remember that pursuit of knowledge is a lifelong journey, and that success isn't measured by what you achieve, but by the impact you make on the world around you. So it's with immense pride that we see you graduate today, and though you may be leaving us, we hope you will continue to stay in touch to let us know how you get on and to continue to contribute to Strathclyde. Because it's through the involvement of our alumni that we can provide a first-class education and student experience for you. So we now ask that you think of those who are going to follow you. Finally, I'd like to thank the faculty and staff of Strathclyde for their unwavering commitment to excellence and for their dedication to helping our graduates achieve their full potential. And to the families and friends of our graduates, thank you for your unwavering support and encouragement. In conclusion, I'd like to congratulate you once again on this momentous achievement. The University of Strathclyde has equipped you with the tools you need to thrive in the years ahead, and I have no doubt that you'll make us proud. So go forth with confidence, with purpose, and with knowledge that you're capable of great things. I wish you every success for the future. I would now like to invite you to join the academic procession, and I would ask families and friends to remain upstanding until the procession has left the building, and then join us in the Learning and Teaching building just up the hill here for refreshments. I now declare this congregation closed and ask you to be upstanding, please.